Welcome to Inside Auto Podcast, where we feature everyone and anyone you'd want to talk to in and out of the automotive industry.
Ilana Shabtai here, host of Inside Auto Podcast, where we interview top dealers, GMs, marketers, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders in and out of the automotive industry. And before we introduce today's guest, this episode is sponsored by FullPath.com. FullPath is the automotive industry's leading customer data and experience platform, CDXP. FullPath enables dealers to turn their first-party data into lifelong customers by unifying siloed data sources and leveraging that data to create exceptional, hyper-personalized customer experiences. To learn more, visit FullPath.com. All right, today we have a guest who I've overlapped so much with, so I'm so excited to finally have a long conversation with Micah Birkholz. How are
Nailed
you?
it.
I think I added the T by accident.
It's all right. We'll throw one in for good measure, just in case.
Well, it's good to have you here. How are you doing?
Good. Doing real good this morning.
Awesome. Well, Micah joins us as the Director of Sales at VistaDash, bringing over 2 decades of experience in sales, marketing, and performance management to his role. With a strategic marketing focus, Micah helps dealers and agency partners optimize their teams and technology. An engaging speaker with a bit of an edge and sarcasm, I can attest to that. He shares his knowledge and expertise with enthusiasm. I'm very excited for you to bring that to the podcast today.
I appreciate that.
And did you just speak at a conference? Were you at Kane conference?
I was not at Kane. I got one coming up though. I'm going to be doing Dealer Knows Consulting.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, they're doing the summer camp.
Yeah, that was such a cool concept.
Yeah,
I
think I might be a trailblazer. I'm not sure exactly what it all means, but I'm going to be speaking a little bit. But I just like that whole, like I think we mentioned earlier, like that whole switching up of like the regular convention. Something that it feels more like a executive retreat is kind of like the energy behind it, which I really appreciate. Like switching it up, forcing you to as a speaker train as opposed to, or educate as opposed to, look at all my PowerPoint slides that somebody has put together for me.
Every single slide, which is going to be extremely distracting. Yeah. Wait, so can you share what you're going to be speaking about?
Strategic marketing. So what are the different aspects? I think so often we always talk about the different silver bullets that everybody needs, as opposed to let's really analyze what you have before taking the step in how do you market it and which partnerships do you need to market with. So, and from everything from inventory to salesperson and personnel. If you're not figuring that into the equation for your marketing and then execution of lead handling, then you've got a huge disconnect. So I kind of like to look at people, process, and product all as one core element of a strategic marketing.
That sounds interesting, and I love that it's the training and knowledge approach. I think that's going to really be engaging for all the dealers. But before I jumped in too quick, I wanted to hear your story about how you got into automotive. This is how I start every episode. I love hearing how people get into automotive because everyone has such a special story of how they kind of stumbled in.
Yeah, so I was a young father, a father at a very young age. So I was like about 19 years old, and my dad, I was selling books over the phone. So this was great. It was a wonderful job where I got maybe $6 an hour, and I was selling tax, like how to beat out the tax system type books, and I was taking incoming calls after a radio spot and try to upsell. If I upsold the second, third, and fourth book, I'd get an extra 50 cents. So I realized that this is not sustainable for like caring for a family. And my dad turned to me and said, you know what you really should do is probably look at selling cars. You could probably make a good living, at least cover your bills rather than what you're doing right now. And I thought it was absolutely nuts. My dad, conservative, old pastor, and I thought, what the? All right, well, if my dad says so, I'll take his advice. And it was probably some of the best advice he ever gave me that I actually took. So he probably has a lot. Yeah, he's probably going to listen. He's like, I gave you a lot of great advice. So I started selling cars on December 21st, 1997, the week of Christmas, which in Minnesota is not a popular time to buy a car. Right. So I got to learn how to struggle.
Wait, so and which store did you start at?
All right. So it was Denny Hecker's Stillwater Ford Lincoln Mercury. 12969 North 60th Street, Minnesota 55082. I remember it to this day because I had to tell people over the phone because there wasn't a
Wow.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, 651-430-2400. I mean, this stuff will never leave my brain. It's completely useless. Yeah.
No, well, you never know.
Well, yeah.
Okay, so then you went, so you were there, you sold cars. You had a good experience, I'm assuming, because you're still stuck in this industry. What happened next?
So I think that yes and no, because it's like I realized that this might be my only real path. And so there's a lot of trauma like that associated with early on. I was in one of those old school stores, but I knew that this was the route. So I did that. I worked in sales, worked my way up into finance and sales management, GSM in my early 20s, and realized I'm missing a lot of my kids' life. So maybe I should look into being a vendor. So I had a buddy that worked at a small third-party provider called Car Soup, and he said, "You know what? You should probably
Well, Minnesota, that makes sense.
Minnesota, exactly. So I started selling. I got a job as an account executive, and it just like was the right fit. And I started to really realize how much I really enjoyed being in multiple stores, sharing from a sales perspective one thing, but also it was really still kind of new. SEM wasn't big yet. SEO services were just starting to get out there, but third-party providers was like it was the search marketing in a way. So I really got a great opportunity, great education myself in that space, and was able to realize how much I love working with multiple dealers. So I was able to transition from that into unemployment, which was a weird shift. So things were really good, and we're like, this is awesome. We're like knocking down the numbers, and then like this recession hit. And we lost about 60% of our sales force, and I was one of the people at that time. And it was a struggle. I had a family, and I think in a 6-month time period, I must have sent out over like 300 resumes, just trying to find anything in the car business. But everybody was going under. At that time, Denny Hecker started closing down stores. He went to jail. Things like that started happening where you're like, so I had to find a way to kind of rebrand and refocus. And I really spent a lot of time learning about social media over my unemployment, which is kind of like one of those bittersweet things because, how sad. The top salesperson at one store is now on social media all day long. And that's just what I did. But it turned out into like right at the advent of social media marketing. Right. And so I got into it deep, like to the point where I was like learning how to code Facebook markup language. So I could do like, they used to do like landing pages and gating pages. I don't know if you remember that, where you had to like them. So I started learning how to do that. And it was fun.
Look at social media marketing today, and that is insane how quickly we're going.
Right? It's like, it just accelerated to a point like, oh my gosh. Yeah.
Just going back before you get too ahead, I want to talk a little bit about when you moved from dealer to vendor and you were introducing SEM and other things to dealers. Do you have like a parallel of that experience to something that you're doing now at VistaDash and the conversations you're having with dealers? Like, do you feel like the automotive industry has evolved and these conversations about technology have gotten, I don't want to say necessarily easier, but we have early adopters, we have people that understand the effect that technology has on automotive, or do you kind of feel like the industry is every time we're hit with the technology wave, it's sort of like a flashback?
So there's flashbacks definitely because you constantly have to figure out how that person needs to be sold and or educated. We go through the same scripting so often, like this is what our product does, this is how it benefits you. And for that individual person, we have to find a unique way to connect with them. And you got to figure that out early on. And I don't want to say it takes a lot of salesmanship, but their job is to sell cars in many cases, right? So if we're focusing on a dealer, they're looking at the process to sell that vehicle to the individual, that customer. When I look at how do I then sell them is I find out what their unique style that would make sense for them, and try to focus on that. So in many cases, if I'm talking to a general sales manager who doesn't understand the digital side of it and accountability and data standardization, like this new wave of stuff, right? I always say, well, do you let your salespeople do X, Y, Z and just tell you how much to pay you? No, you have a sheet that you go by that says how much, and you got it standardized, right? So I find ways to try to like make a connection and bridge that understanding and the technology, so it has a real world application for them that makes sense. But it's different at each store. But yes, there's the speed at which we're going, these buzzwords. It's always fun to like try to cut through. Like, okay, what's your actual understanding of that? I always assume people know more than me in those spaces. And so it makes it a little bit easier to kind of like get that idea of, all right, what's the next wave tech? All right, how are we going to still be relevant throughout that through that new wave, and then just kind of execute from there.
Interesting. And so what are you seeing? What do you think this wave is all about now? Or this like past, let's say six months, the next 12 months? Are you seeing some kind of pattern?
So like when it comes to like the chat bots and AI, so I think that what we have right now is, and I think this is where it gets one of those more controversial topics.
I love it.
Okay.
Bring on the controversy.
So a friend and contact of mine said recently, OEMs focus on buzzwords. That's what drives what an OEM signs up for. That's what drives innovation in the OEM space, right? So we are now in that, right? We're kind of in that right now, the past, I'd say 8-12 months, when it comes to like CDPs, for example, or CDXPs. That is a concept that is getting attention from an OEM. So we got a race right now to have the best CDP, CDXP platform so that we can earn that OEM stamp of approval. So then that becomes like the baseline, right? That's like the baseline standard.
Like take COVID, it was digital retail and it was the same thing. And then OEMs got on top of digital retail. I totally agree. And I think that there's often a mismatch between like, certain parts of certain dealerships need certain things. It's not always necessarily the latest buzz, meaning not everyone needs, not everyone neaded digital or was ready for digital retail.
No.
And et cetera.
Digital retail wasn't ready for digital retail.
Right.
It wasn't. But what it forced the industry to come up with a thing that's going to solve that problem. When now we look at it is that that was the problem, right? It was that people couldn't come in store. They needed a digital retail platform. There's some great ones out there. However, the adoption rate from the consumer, it was by necessity, but not necessarily exactly what they wanted to do.
Right.
So as you start taking a look at the different trends, you've got to see where the consumer's mindset is. Yeah. And I know that there's a lot of people that say, well, reports show that people want a digital online experience like we provide. And whenever there's a report, there's always a sales behind it, right? There's always some kind of pitch that's going to follow it. So I think like over the next 12 months, as we start seeing the CDP, it's just going to evolve. Unfortunately, I think we are in a space right now until we have like some type of cataclysmic event that we're not going to see a true forced evolution of what we're actually doing. And that's how we evolve. Right now we're doing a lot of bolt-on. You know what I mean? So we've got the website and everything else it's like a car with a lot of aftermarket equipment on it, right? So I think that's where we are right now in a lot of cases is that we have our websites, and this is the tech that we consider is interacting with the consumer, but it's all the bolt-on pieces that's really trying to make that facilitation to actual execution of purchase. That I think there's that big disconnect yet. So not until we have a huge, like another one that actually forces it, will we see innovation that's going to be beyond what we're seeing right now.
Yeah, I mean, I do think Chat GPT, like the whole introduction of that type of AI, I mean, I see it's completely transformed how we even work. And I can see that's going to be the big next thing, I think, for dealers. Not just like, okay, obviously we Full Path released Chat GPT for websites. That's great. But I think beyond that, like the idea of having really sophisticated AI ingrained in their operations. So like Is there going to be an AI that is listening to all their calls and sending reports to the managers? Is there going to be AI that's now writing all the emails for them? Meaning beyond it, it's going to be so incorporated into businesses that dealerships are going to have to figure out, I think they're going to want to. It's a great thing. They're going to have to figure out how to use it and make their people more efficient with it. It's going to be interesting. I don't know.
So I think that speaks to something really unique about, and this is not an anti-capitalist statement. It's just an observation. But capitalism, whenever there's been some type of technology breakthrough or a new tool, capitalists look at how does this tool eliminate my expensive employees. So I can use this tool to cut out
efficiency of what you're spending, and if you're spending on this, then you want to cut it. Of course. Exactly.
So that's like that's kind of this concept, as opposed to taking a look at it. We've got this new technology that it's going to 10x what I'm able to do. So instead of cutting 10 people to bring this in, why not take this? And if I did my job of hiring the right people, I can 10x each of those 10 people. And I think that's where there's a disconnect sometimes when it comes to tech innovation, is we're looking so much as how can I replace someone, as opposed to how can I appreciate their value and help to manifest that by using this tech even more. And I think that's the bridge. Yeah.
And I think that's actually what things like ChatGPT that's what they're going to do. Meaning they are just going to elevate employees. I remember in 2018, I spoke at, I can't remember if this was a Kane conference or Innovation Dealer Summit.
Over at Colorado.
Yeah, I can't remember which.
Tim Jackson.
I did this specific session on, but the session was called, and this was 2018. It was called, "Is AI coming for your job?" And then it was like, "No, friends, but like you better be damn good at your job for it not to come at your job," something like that.
Yeah,
it's very obvious that it's going to be a necessity, but it's to make us way more efficient. Meaning, let's be strategy driven. Let's do things that AI can't do, and AI can do monotonous, repetitive tasks that can only augment what we're doing and just make us better at what we do.
Exactly. Like I was listening to a podcast, and there's trying to know how to pronounce it, Machio. Machio is a futurist. He talks about quantum computing and all that, but he's been a futurist for years. Really interesting. But he had a really good insight. It's like these chat GPTs, it's garbage in, garbage out. So it's just scouring information. It doesn't know if it's true or false information. It's just data point.
Yes, that's what's so scary about it.
Yeah. So you could use it to create whatever, but you always got to remember there's no barometer test. There's no litmus test to say this is accurate, or it's just trying to, like a kid, make stuff up to pass the test.
It's like Wikipedia on steroids because it's automated.
Completely, because it's all crowdsourced. It's all user-based. So if it sounds like it's something that doesn't make sense, it's because the person that wrote it somewhere on the internet wasn't making any sense.
Right.
Yeah. So you got to be
really
careful.
Incredible how much knowledge this thing has. It's actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, before we sign off, this has been such an awesome conversation. I was very excited for this podcast.
I appreciate that.
I knew it was going to be a good one, but you have a daughter who just graduated, so we need to congratulate her. What's her name?
Cosette
just graduated from college, and you could tell us a little bit about how proud you are, but that's awesome. Congratulations. That's a huge milestone.
Thank you. Yeah, she's the first of our kids to graduate. So it's and I didn't get a chance because I went car business route. Which is completely cool. I'm happy where I'm at, but I was able to make sure that she went through. So she actually graduates this year, just graduated this past Friday. This coming Friday, she's being commissioned as an officer in the U.S. Army. So she went the ROTC route. It's like trying to find a way that fit what she would want it to be in her career path, but also financially make the school affordable.
Yeah,
old American education system.
It's amazing. Does she know what she's going to specialize in the Army? I don't know much about the U.S. Army. I was in the Israeli Army, so I.
Yeah, so she's good. Her bullock. So she's working through the National Guard. So she's going to be is focused on going to be a quartermaster. So that's So that's her designation. So operational and equipment. So she's got that. So she is going to go do like her final ROTC training after being commissioned on Friday next summer, not this coming summer, but next summer. She got pushed back because she's going to the police academy in 2 weeks after she gets commissioned.
That's awesome. So wait, she's going to do that for a year and then she's going to go to the Army?
Yeah, so she's she is going to be, she's in the National Guard, so she's got a weekend every other, like a 1 weekend a month commitment and then a summertime commitment. So she's got that that she's got going on there, plus the police academy, and then finding a full-time job after that.
Oh my
So it's
gosh,
gonna be,
busy
it's
woman. Well,
exciting.
so lots of opportunity and in automotive and out of automotive. She sounds really impressive. Congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And where can we find you? Which next conference will you be at? Just let our listeners know.
Yeah, so I'll be at the Dealer Knows camp, like summer camp conference. The week, I think it's the 24th, 23rd, somewhere around there.
Okay.
I probably have booked my trip. Maybe I haven't. I'm never good at that. But I'm going to be talking on strategic marketing there, and it's a completely different format, not the standard booze party afterwards and too much food. But it's going to be like literally summer camp at a campground, kickball tournament, team building, but no reliance on technology, which I think is a huge, even though we're very much a tech, we're very much in the tech space.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that.
And then will you be at, in the fall, which is like conference season, are you going to any of those?
Yeah, I'll be at Digital Dealer in Vegas. I think it's Vegas this year. And then I'm going to be then little smaller conferences here and there. There's always like the one-off that like a vendor will throw. So we've got other ones like that I'm going to be participating in. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, well, I'm excited. I'll see you in Vegas. So, I mean, maybe I'll see you before, but that'll be nice. Thank you so much for joining us, Inside Auto Podcast. And for those of you listening, InsideAutoPodcast.com, you can find us on all your favorite podcast streaming channels. Thanks again. Thanks, Micah.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for listening to Inside Auto Podcast. Check out our other episodes with top entrepreneurs and industry leaders.